Who do you think can betray you the worst? A stranger? A rival? No. The deepest betrayals come from the people who once swore to stand by you. Those you trusted the most. What happens when the man you build a life with, the one who promised forever, sells your dream home for next to nothing to his mistress? But what he doesn't realize is that you're not just his wife. You're the one who knows exactly how to take everything back. Welcome to AGS Stories, where true stories of betrayal, resilience, and justice come to life. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's dive into today's incredible story. The city skyline stretched before me, glittering with the lights of Manhattan's endless high-rises. I had always loved this view, the way the city pulsed with life, how it made me feel like anything was possible. This was supposed to be our home, a place Ethan and I would grow old together. Instead, it now belonged to someone else. Sophia Lane, 25, the woman my husband had been sleeping with. I tightened my grip on the key in my hand, my knuckles whitening. I had come here hoping, what exactly? That this was all a mistake? That somehow I had misunderstood? But the truth was undeniable. Ethan had sold our penthouse, the home we built together, to his mistress for $5. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Everything was as I had left it. The sleek modern furniture, the framed photos on the walls, the scent of my favorite vanilla candles lingering in the air. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a crime scene. And the criminal? He was standing right in front of me, leaning casually against the kitchen counter, a glass of whiskey in hand, looking completely unbothered. His smug smile sent a rush of anger through my veins. "Olivia," he drawled, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "Didn't expect you to stop by." I held up the deed I had found, our deed, now transferred to Sophia Lane for the price of a morning coffee. My voice was steady, colder than I felt. "What the hell is this, Ethan?" He barely glanced at the document before setting his drink down. "It's exactly what it looks like. The penthouse is Sophia's now. You're a smart woman, Liv. You should know it's all legal." I stared at him, my pulse hammering in my ears. 12 years. That's how long we had been together. 12 years of building a life, a home, a future. And in one stroke of a pen, he had handed it over to another woman. $5. My voice was calm, but inside, I was burning. "That's what our home was worth to you." Ethan chuckled, that condescending smirk never leaving his face. "It's a symbolic gesture, sweetheart. You wouldn't understand." I exhaled slowly, suppressing the urge to launch the nearest glass at his head. He thought he had won. He thought I was powerless. That was his first mistake. I set the deed down on the counter, smoothing it out with deliberate care. Then I looked him dead in the eye and smiled. "You're right, Ethan. It's all legal. Nothing I can do about it." His smirk widened. He thought I was conceding. That was his second mistake. I turned to leave, pausing at the door. "I just hope you read the fine print before you get too comfortable." His expression faltered, his confidence flickering for the first time. "What fine print?" I didn't answer. Let him figure it out. "Let me ask you something. What would you do if you found out the person you trusted most had betrayed you? Would you scream? Would you cry? Would you lash out?" I get it. The instinct to explode, to demand answers, to make them hurt like they hurt you. That's natural. But here's what I've learned. Rage is satisfying, but strategy is powerful. The moment I saw that deed, I had two choices: react emotionally or act intelligently. And trust me, nothing terrifies a man like Ethan more than a woman who refuses to lose control. So here's my advice if you ever find yourself in a situation like this. Do not let them see you break. Keep your emotions in check. Your silence will unnerve them more than any shouting match ever could. Gather your resources. Find the people who can help you, lawyers, financial advisors, or even a trusted friend. The stronger your support system, the better your position. Know your rights. You might be shocked at how many loopholes exist in legal and financial agreements. What seems like a loss at first could be the very thing that turns the tables. And that's exactly what I did. Because what Ethan didn't realize was that he had just signed his own downfall. I walked out of the penthouse that night feeling strangely calm. Ethan thought he had won. He thought I was just another scorned wife who would scream, cry, and disappear into the shadows while he and his new trophy paraded around in my home. But Ethan had no idea who he was dealing with. I got into my car, hands gripping the steering wheel as I exhaled slowly. Now it was my turn. The first discovery, the hidden clause. By the time I got to my office, it was past midnight, but adrenaline kept me sharp. I unlocked my desk drawer and pulled out the original purchase contract for the penthouse. Ethan had always insisted on handling the paperwork. Don't worry about the details, babe. I got it covered. He never thought I'd take a second look. Big mistake. As I combed through the documents, my eyes landed on something that made my breath catch. A hidden clause, buried in the fine print of the original deed. It stated that if the property was sold for less than fair market value within the first 3 years, it would trigger an automatic reassessment by the city's tax office. The difference between the sale price and the market value would be taxed immediately, and the burden would fall on the seller. Ethan had transferred a $4 million penthouse for $5. That meant he was now responsible for a transfer tax bill of over $1.2 million. I leaned back in my chair, lips curling into a slow, satisfied smile. Ethan had played himself. The second discovery, Ethan's financial betrayal. I wasn't done. I turned my attention to our joint bank statements, scrolling through each transaction with laser focus. Ethan was a smart businessman, but he was also arrogant, and arrogance made people sloppy. Sure enough, after digging through months of transactions, I found exactly what I was looking for. Multiple transfers from our joint account to a private account in his name. At first, they were small, insignificant amounts. $2,000 here, $5,000 there. Nothing that would raise suspicion. But then the numbers started to grow. $50,000. $75,000, $120,000. And then I found it, a direct wire transfer to Sophia Lane, $300,000. I stared at the screen, a slow, burning fury settling in my chest. He had been funneling our money, my money, to his mistress. But what Ethan hadn't realized was that he had just given me a legal weapon to use against him. In our state, any asset acquired or supported by marital funds could be contested in a divorce settlement. Ethan thought he was securing his future with Sophia, but in reality, he had just given me the right to fight for half of everything. I closed my laptop, heartbeat steady. I knew exactly what I had to do next. The confrontation, shattering his confidence. The next morning, I walked into the penthouse like I owned the place because, in a way, I still did. Ethan was sitting on the couch, sipping his overpriced coffee, looking smug as ever. "Olivia," he drawled, barely looking up from his phone. "Back so soon?" I tossed a stack of papers onto the table in front of him. Bank statements, contracts, the deed. "You might want to read this," I said, crossing my arms. Ethan barely glanced at them before smirking. "What, Liv? You're going to cry to your lawyers? Hate to break it to you, but there's nothing illegal about what I did." I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. "Really? You think so?" He exhaled dramatically, flipping through the documents as if I was wasting his time. But then he stopped. His face paled as his eyes skimmed the fine print. The tax clause. "You should always read contracts carefully before getting too cocky," I said softly, watching him swallow hard. He looked up, forcing a laugh. This is ridiculous. No one even enforces these things." "Oh, but they do. In fact, the city reassesses properties like this all the time. And since you sold a $4 million penthouse for a cup of coffee, you owe." I leaned down, tapping a manicured finger against the page. $1.2 million in immediate tax payments. Silence. Ethan's hand clenched around the papers. "That's not possible," he said, voice tight. I shrugged. "You signed the deed. You agreed to the terms. You didn't read the fine print. So now you have to deal with the consequences." His face twisted, the first signs of panic creeping in. I'll fix this," he muttered, standing up. "I'll talk to my accountant." "Oh, and Ethan?" I cut him off, enjoying this far too much. "You might want to check page 2. His eyes snapped back to the documents. I watched as his fingers trembled while flipping the page. And then he saw it. The proof of the wire transfer to Sophia. His whole body tensed. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice suddenly sharp. "Oh, Ethan," I sighed dramatically. You should know by now. I'm always 10 steps ahead. I watched as the reality set in. Not only was he about to lose everything in tax payments, but now I had proof that he had stolen from our joint assets. This isn't what it looks like, he stammered. I let out a slow, deliberate laugh. Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his smug confidence crumbling. What do you want? He finally asked, his voice tight. I picked up the papers, tapping them against my palm as I stepped closer. I wanted him to squirm. I want what's fair, I said simply. And what's fair is you paying for every mistake you've made. I turned and walked toward the door, pausing just before stepping out. Oh, and Ethan? I threw one last look over my shoulder. Good luck explaining this to Sophia. I shut the door behind me, my heart pounding with adrenaline. This was only the beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing incessantly on my nightstand. I didn't need to check to know who it was. Ethan. I let it ring. Then came the text messages. 1, then 2, then 5, then 10. Ethan, Olivia, we need to talk. Ethan, this is serious. Ethan, call me back. Now. Ethan, you knew this was going to happen, didn't you? A slow smile spread across my face as I stretched, feeling more well-rested than I had in months. Yes, Ethan. I knew exactly what was going to happen. And now, so did you. The tax bomb hits. By mid-morning, I had confirmation from my contacts in the city tax office. Ethan's official tax assessment had been processed. The bill? $1.2 million. Due immediately. The best part? There was no way out of it. No loophole. No extensions. No magic accountant that could make it disappear. The contract was ironclad. The law was clear. Ethan was screwed. His arrogance had cost him dearly. And now, the man who once bragged about his business genius was spiraling. By noon, the phone calls turned into voicemails. Panicked. Desperate. Bordering on unhinged. Olivia, listen, I know you're pissed, okay? But this is bigger than us. This tax thing, it's a mistake. We can fix it. Just call me back. Liv, please. I need your help. You're the smartest person I know. We can figure this out together. What do you want? Money? A settlement? Fine. Just answer the damn phone. I didn't. Instead, I took my time getting dressed, made myself a latte, and enjoyed a quiet morning while Ethan lost his mind. Sophia starts to panic. By the afternoon, the text started coming from a different number. Unknown? Hi, Olivia. I know we don't really know each other, but I really need to talk to you. Unknown? It's Sophia. Unknown. Please, I had no idea about the taxes. Ethan never told me. Unknown. I don't know what to do. I let out a small laugh. Oh, Sophia. Welcome to the club. I debated ignoring her entirely, but curiosity got the better of me. I sent a single message back. Me. What do you want? It took her less than a minute to respond. Sophia. I can't afford the taxes on the penthouse. The bank won't give me a loan. Sophia. Ethan said he would handle everything, but now his accounts are frozen and I'm stuck. Sophia, please. I need your help. I could almost hear the desperation in her voice through the text. This woman thought she had won. She thought she was the one Ethan had chosen, that she was special. And now, she was realizing she was just another pawn in his game. I took another sip of my coffee before replying. Me sell it. A pause. Then, Sophia, what? Me. Sell the penthouse before the tax office seizes it. It's your only way out. Sophia, but Ethan said you were trying to take it back. Me, I don't want it. I want him to suffer the consequences of his choices. Me, the same consequences you're now dealing with. There was no response after that. I had a feeling Sophia was sitting in my penthouse, staring out at the skyline, realizing she had made the biggest mistake of her life. Ethan's business starts to collapse. The real fun began when I got a call from a mutual business contact. Olivia, have you spoken to Ethan lately? No, I said, feigning curiosity. Why? His accounts have been frozen. Word's getting around that he can't make payroll for his restaurants this month. I arched an eyebrow. Interesting. If he can't pay his staff, they're going to walk out. Investors are getting nervous. Sounds like a him problem, I said coolly. My contact hesitated. You knew about this, didn't you? I smiled. Let's just say, I know Ethan better than most. That evening, I finally picked up one of Ethan's calls. The second he heard my voice, he let out a breath of relief. Liv, thank God. We need to talk. We don't need to do anything, Ethan. I cut him off. But I'm listening. You have to help me fix this, he said, voice raw. The taxes, the frozen accounts, I can't handle this on my own. That's unfortunate, I said smoothly, echoing the very words he had once thrown at me. He groaned in frustration. Come on, Liv. We were together for 12 years. That has to count for something. It does, I agreed, which is why I gave you every opportunity to do the right thing. And instead, you try to screw me over. Silence. I made a mistake, he admitted, voice breaking. Yes, I agreed. Several, actually. Please, Olivia, he pleaded. You don't have to forgive me. Just help me. I sighed dramatically. Ethan, do you know what the worst part is? What? He whispered. You really thought I was stupid enough to let you get away with this. I hung up, and for the first time in a long time, I felt completely free. Ethan's business collapsed. Without access to his accounts, he couldn't pay his employees. Investors pulled out. His restaurants shut down within weeks. Sophia sold the penthouse for market value, just in time to pay off the tax debt, but walked away with nothing. Ethan lost everything. His money, his properties, his reputation. He went from being a respected businessman to a cautionary tale in financial ruin. And me? I thrived. With my share of our divided assets, I invested in real estate. Ironically, using the very knowledge Ethan had underestimated. I moved into a beautiful new home, built from my own success. Months later, I got one final text from Ethan. Ethan, you destroyed everything. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, me? No, Ethan. You did that yourself. And with that, I blocked his number for good. I stood by the window of my new office, overlooking the city skyline. The same Manhattan lights that once represented the life I thought I would have with Ethan. Now, they meant something else. Freedom, power, and a fresh start. Ethan had spent years believing he controlled everything. Our marriage, our home, our finances. But now, his empire had crumbled, and I was still standing. The final act of my plan was unfolding, and I was about to watch him lose everything. A week after our last conversation, Sophia called me again. This time I answered. Olivia, she started, her voice a mix of panic and exhaustion. I don't have a choice. I have to sell the penthouse. I already knew that. The tax office had given her 30 days to pay the outstanding balance. She didn't have the money. Ethan's accounts were frozen, and no bank in their right mind would give her a loan after her name was tied to a property scandal. You should sell it quickly, I said, my tone detached, professional. I have a buyer, she admitted, but it's going for market price. I won't make anything off the sale. I almost laughed. So now she understood? She thought she was winning when Ethan signed the penthouse over to her. She thought she had taken something from me. She didn't realize she was inheriting his financial disaster. Sell it, I repeated. It's your only way out. Sophia hesitated. Then, in a quieter voice, she asked, Did you plan this? Not exactly, I admitted. I just knew how it would end. He's furious, she said, almost to herself. He says I'm betraying him. I smirked. He said the same thing about me once. There was a long pause before she spoke again. I wish I had never met him. I leaned back in my chair, taking in the weight of her words. Sophia had been a willing participant in my husband's betrayal. But now, she was just another casualty of his arrogance. Then don't make the same mistake twice, I told her. And with that, I hung up, winning in court and taking what's mine. Ethan didn't just lose the penthouse. He lost everything. 2 weeks later, I walked into the courtroom, my head held high. Ethan sat at the defendant's table, looking pale, exhausted, and completely defeated. His lawyer sat beside him, flipping through a thick stack of documents, the evidence I had spent months gathering. The moment proceedings began, Ethan's team tried to fight back. Your Honor, my client was under the impression that the property was his sole asset. My lawyer cut him off smoothly. That's incorrect. The construction of the penthouse was funded by marital assets. Under state law, my client is entitled to half. Ethan clenched his jaw. He knew. He had always known. The judge flipped through the paperwork, nodding slightly. Mrs. Carter, he addressed me. Your financial claim is well documented. Given the evidence presented, I see no reason why you should not be granted an equal division of all marital assets, including liquidated funds and business shares. I kept my face neutral. Inside, I was smiling. Ethan, on the other hand, looked like he was going to be sick. The ruling was swift. I was awarded 50% of all assets we had accumulated during the marriage. I was given legal rights to contest any financial mismanagement he had engaged in. I was granted additional compensatory damages for the unauthorized use of our joint accounts. By the end of it, Ethan owed me more than he could ever repay. His lawyer turned to him, voice low but sharp. If you try to appeal this, you'll lose even more. For the first time in months, Ethan turned to look at me. His eyes were full of something I had never seen in them before. Fear. After the court ruling, Ethan's fall was unstoppable. His investors backed out. His financial scandal made headlines in business circles. No one wanted to be associated with him. His restaurant shut down. With his accounts frozen, he couldn't pay his employees. One by one, his high-end establishments closed their doors. His reputation was in ruins. The once brilliant businessman was now a cautionary tale of arrogance and betrayal. He tried to fight it. He tried to claw his way back. But Ethan was bleeding out financially, and no one was willing to save him. Sophia? She had long since disappeared. She took what little money she had left and vanished from his life. And Ethan? He was left with nothing. I saw Ethan one last time. It wasn't planned. I was having dinner at one of my favorite spots downtown, a place Ethan used to take me to back when we were happy. I was sipping my wine, enjoying the freedom of my new life, when I saw him. He was sitting alone at the bar, a nearly empty glass in front of him, his once tailored suit now slightly wrinkled, his shoulders hunched. For a moment, he looked at me. I saw the recognition flash across his face. And then shame. I smiled, raised my glass in a silent toast, and turned back to my table. I didn't need to say anything. He knew. Winning wasn't about getting the penthouse back or taking half of his assets, though let's be honest, that was a nice bonus. Winning was walking away on my own terms. Winning was reclaiming my life, my happiness, my future. Ethan tried to destroy me. Instead, he destroyed himself. And me? I was just getting started, and that's how it all ended. Ethan thought he was untouchable. He believed he could take everything from me. Our home, our finances, my dignity, and walk away without consequences. But what he didn't realize was that I was always 10 steps ahead. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to beg. I didn't need to chase after revenge in the way he expected. Instead, I let him destroy himself, piece by piece, using nothing but the truth, the law, and his own arrogance. This wasn't just about getting back what was mine. It was about something much bigger. It was about taking control of my own future. If you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, remember this. Never let anyone hold power over you just because they control the finances. Knowledge is your greatest weapon. Learn the rules, read the fine print, and protect yourself before it's too late. Keep records. Keep proof. Keep your emotions in check. The best way to fight back isn't always loud, it's strategic. Ethan thought I would break. Instead, I walked away stronger than ever. And that is the real victory. Have you ever been betrayed? Did someone try to take advantage of you, thinking they could get away with it? How did you fight back? Or if you haven't yet, what do you wish you had done differently? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. Let's build a community where we learn from each other's experiences. And if you love stories of justice, redemption, and well-deserved revenge, subscribe to AGS Stories. Hit that like button, leave your story in the comments, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because the best revenge? It's not anger. It's winning on your own terms.